I mentioned this before. I'm watching the show Severance. It's on Apple TV Plus. I love it. I usually don't watch TV, and I haven't had this situation in a while due to like streaming. Most of the time, all episodes come out at once and you can binge it, but these are coming out one per week, and I am savoring each week waiting for the next episode of Severance to come out. And my Friday nights, just me in bed watching it, so thoroughly engaged in it. And when I get time, I do reviews of the episodes on my Red Pill Film Knowledge and Tinfoil with John Lippy. So that brings us over to here. If you're not subscribed to Red Pill Film Knowledge with John Lippy, you could subscribe to it if you go to the channels tab on my main channel, the channel that you're watching right now. And you'll see that there's 12 channels here. Believe it or not, I actually have more than these channels. And you could subscribe to the Red Pill Film Knowledge channel. You could subscribe to the Beyond the Harmony channel, the Realm Earth channel, the Retro Gaming, Tinfoil Tidbits, the Sports channel, Dual Legacy, Message in the Moon. Any of these that seem interesting to you, feel free to subscribe. But if you want to be kept up to date when I release my reviews of Severance, go to the Red Pill Film Knowledge channel. And if you're not watching it, you really ought to give it a shot. If you're into truthing and is reality real, what is reality and all that, this show it's captivated my 100% attention. Not only has it captivated my attention, like I said, I can't wait for I'd actually pay $20 right now to get the rest of the season. I want to watch it all right now. On my mind the whole week. I really, really, really enjoy the show. All right, The Tower of Babel. I recently reread it again. It's short. It's in Genesis. And I've always had a problem with it ever since a kid. I liked the idea that mankind had one language and used I guess science wasn't there, but their knowledge of creation to try to build a stairway to heaven, a large enough building to get into the sky. And God didn't like it and struck them down and fractured languages into 1,000 languages. That just never set well with me. Why would you, if people have free will and people decided to build a building to get high into the sky to maybe see heaven, why would you punish them? And the division of the languages, that's a divide and conquer method. And all it does is it leads me to the concept of the show Ants Canada. So there's a channel on YouTube called Ants Canada, and it's a marketing show for a company that sells ant colonies, but they're really elaborate ant colonies. It's not that like Etch-a-Sketch thing that you might have bought as a kid. They're these giant tubes. It's really elaborate, the stuff they have to build these ant kingdoms. And in order to market the products they have, they make all these shows about different ant species and what happens when the species collide. And then in each episode, the ants are always trying to escape. So the ant keeper shows the deterrence that he puts in place to prevent the ants from escaping. You know, that goes into the obstacle course theory that I presented on my Tinfoil Tidbits channel, that we're in this like obstacle course. And there's all these deterrents put in place to prevent us from escaping, such as, you find yourself on land, and let's say you travel through the land and get past the snakes and the bears and the lions and the tigers, obstacles and the cliffs and the canyons and all the ways that you get hurt on land, and you make it to the beach. You're then faced with this gigantic ocean that's filled with even scarier creatures and salt water and whirlpools and tsunamis and all this treachery. And let's say somehow you should get past and beyond the big, gigantic ocean. You're then faced with this 2-mile high ice wall at Antarctica. And let's just say you're able to clear that ice wall because you had a big enough ship to get there and you happen to have helicopters that could clear the 2-mile high wall. Then you're faced with miles and miles and miles of ice and no gas stations. And you're also in the situation that all your vehicles require gas, and the gas will run out, so you don't have enough gas to possibly get beyond all of that ice. But let's say you might get through all that ice. You probably won't. We don't know anybody that's got beyond all that ice. And so all that ice, if you look at that old Monty's map, you notice that the ice wasn't there. And so maybe people, because of the voyagers of the 1400s and the 1500s, all the sailors started sailing around the world. It seems that they put that ice wall there to prevent people from discovering what they don't want us to discover. And so that's what I got out of when I think of the Tower of Babel. I think of it as a deterrent to prevent man from escaping. And because they were united through one language, the divide and conquer to divide the languages so we can't communicate as easily, you begin to wonder if all the builders of buildings are really doing it to test the limits in this like unspoken competition. So first we had the Empire State Building, and then the Sears Tower, and then the Twin Towers, and then the Khalifa, that big tall building in Dubai. Is it really all the builders secretly trying to test how far high they can build before God strikes them down? Are we allowed to see what's up there? Can we see what's up there? What about a space elevator? You know, if you believe in space. Whenever I used to hear about the space elevator, I used to think, how does that work? How does the space elevator work? How does that really work? That has always been my issue with the Tower of Babel. How did you feel about the Tower of Babel? Were you okay with it? Or did you feel some of the same ways that I felt about it? Dinosaurs. If you've never seen my video, Crystal Skulls, Dinosaurs, Westworld, the OA, I recommend you go see it. I was just speaking off the top of my head, and I was just speaking from the survival scrolls, man. It's a really good video. When I watch it, I'm like, wow, man, that was like, I didn't plan any of that. I just dropped it. And I basically created this concept that after the fall of the church, there was no way to kill in the name of, so they had to invent evolution. But in order to make evolution, you have to create a whole narrative for it. And so fake archaeology was created, and through it, they started burying all these artifacts. As I say, artifacts is the art of making facts of things you discover from the ground. In 1824, the Megalosaurus was the first dinosaur bone to be found by William Buckland, who was a British fossil hunter. Now, that's pretty interesting if you think about it, that dinosaurs weren't discovered till 1824. And to give you an idea how far back that is, 1826, the first photograph was taken in France. So now with photographs, we start to create, records of time. 1829 is the first Neanderthal fossil. So the idea of monkey man wasn't invented until 1829. Now, here's kind of the flaw in my theory. It's that 1859 is when Darwin publishes The Origin of Species, because The Origin of Species essentially is the foundation Bible for people that aren't religious. Their foundation is with Darwin and Thomas Malthus. And so all these things had to be put in place first so that Darwin could then create the book to explain away what they found, but maybe they buried all that first. 1919 is P.T. Barnum's Circus, and remember his slogan was a sucker's born every minute. And then you wonder about the pyramids, Stonehenge. Some say that they found pictures of Stonehenge being built. The pyramids weren't discovered until 1842, and as far as the Giza pyramids, they were discovered in 1933. Here we are thinking that like all this stuff is ancient history, but people didn't know about this till the 1800s, and perhaps all of this was discovered in order to create a long history. And in the video, I go through it, but basically you have to create a long history in order to make evolution plausible. I also made an interesting video called History. If the winners write history, why do we believe it as fact? So you might want to check that out as well. And then most people don't know this, but the famous Charles Darwin book has a longer title. It's The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or the Preservation of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. So I found it interesting that the rest of that title was cut off. And then the other day I was just standing around and I thought, what is the ground? You ever wonder what the ground is? Like, what is the ground? What is the ground? What's below your feet? Sand? Minerals? Concrete? Coffins? Dinosaurs? But what's below all that? What's after the molten lava? What's after the mantle? What's after the iron core? Can you dig through all the way to China? Can you actually do it? Is it possible? That I'm standing on. I mean, really, what is the ground? And there's obvious answers. Oh, it's the ground. It's the ground. It's made up of this and that. What do you mean, what is the ground? No, but really think about it, man. What is the ground? Because if you're like me, Because if you consider the idea of the infinite plane, that we're not a ball spinning around in space, then you begin to say, so what exactly is the ground that I'm standing on? And most people don't know that the deepest mankind has ever gone into the ground is 8 miles deep. So the world record is 12,262 meters or 40,230 feet. And it was reached in 1989 and is still the deepest artificial point on Earth. And they say it's like they can't drill any deeper, which makes you think of a deterrent, impenetrable. Interestingly enough, the Kola borehole is deeper than the Mariana Trench, which I didn't know until I did this slide. What is the ground? Now we see here what the ground may actually be, but what is beyond that part that they can't drill beyond? There's a movie called 9 Miles Deep, because the farthest we could go is 8. So they got a movie called 9 Miles Deep. So what do you think the ground is? What do you think is beneath the ground? And if you dig deep enough, can you get to China? The fact that we've only dug 8 miles deep, we could dig into the ground about the same height that commercial airplanes can fly in the sky. It's not very high and it's not very deep. So let me know what you think the ground is. That'll about wrap this episode up. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want your tokens, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. May the force be with you.